So here's a rundown of the Jeffrey Dahmer case. Jeffrey Dahmer was born May 21st, 1960 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. If you've not done any watching on Jeffrey, what you will find is that Jeffrey Dahmer's murders stood out, not just because of the number of the victims, but because how he killed them and what he did afterwards. His crimes were deeply disturbing. Jeffrey would lure his victims in, control them, and eventually murder and dismember them. Now, when we look back, we found that Jeffrey, despite this brutality of his crimes, he appeared very calm and polite, soft-spoken, really, if you've ever watched interviews with him. Especially during his arrest and interviews, detectives spoke about how calm Jeffrey appeared to them. It was such a wild contrast between his demeanor and his actions that obviously murdered many, many people. But we find that Jeffrey began being very withdrawn at the age of 6. He was very shy, not very outgoing. When Jeffrey became a teenager, it's found that his home life was very chaotic. His parents had a very toxic relationship. They eventually ended up divorcing. As a teen, Jeffrey began drinking and also dissecting roadkill and showing signs of a lot of emotional disturbance. We find also that Jeffrey was left at home alone for months at a time. This was obviously after his parents had divorced. He was living with his dad and was left at home for months at a time as a teenager, and it's during that time that he committed his first murder. Now, we know that first murder was committed in 1978, and it was a murder of a young man named Stephen Hicks, and Jeffrey was 18 years old at that time. He lured Stephen into his home and he killed him, and he disposed of his body in various pieces. While the murder of Stephen Hicks seemed very spontaneous, it would reveal patterns of behavior that would eventually return years later. Now, the following year after committing that murder, in 1979, Jeffrey did enlist in the Army and was eventually discharged due to his abuse of alcohol. We find that in the early 80s, Jeffrey was relatively quiet for a period of time in terms of murder. He still had fantasies that were really encouraging him to continue committing these murders. We know that he was gay, but he struggled to accept it, partly due to it being a social stigma at that time.